What the hell is even that?
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm going to be trying to install a amplifier rack. If you know about anything like Rockford 5 gate systems in a Road Glide, you know that you have to have that amplifier that goes up under the actual OEM radio. And whenever you got to do any kind of fine tuning or any kind of wire management, it is difficult as hell to be reaching your hand up under all of that limited space that you have under there. So got this guy right here. It's going in just like this. Nah, I got this guy right here because of course I gotta unwrap it, but it goes there where the amplifier actually sits on top up under that radio, you know what I mean? So you'll see what I mean. If you're familiar with this, then you already know what I'm talking about. I only have one amplifier and a DSP, an external DXP that I'm running. So I'm gonna have to do some jury rigging or something like that for this. So let's see what happens. All right, because things are not as easy as just taking 4 screws out and putting the amp rack in and putting the 4 screws back in. It's never that easy. So I gotta remove a few, well, just 2 harnesses that'll run through the middle of it and go right there, and then you just go around and plug in and go inside out. And you're gonna be using this solo amplifier Curly's rack in your Road Glide. When I say Road Glide, I mean 14 to 23 Road Glides. Then, even though it says it's a no cut, you're gonna have to cut the tabs off of that main bracket. Kind of upset with that. Not only that part, but you're gonna have to bring everything that comes up in that center column that comes out and flares out into the inside of that fairing. You're gonna have to bring it all back down. Any lights, any wires, speaker wires, anything. It's got to come all down, back through that middle column. You got to pull it all from the side tree and bring it all in. Remember when I was, and to get that main, remember that slide lock that was on that harness that goes on the back of your radio? Before you pull it through that center, the little hole area on the side of that bracket, clamp it back down, or not clamp it back down, but slide that little apparatus in. That way it makes it a lot easier to get through that hole. I'm gonna have to go get a cut wheel, and I gave it to I let my buddy use it a while back and I never got it back. So I'm gonna have to fly over to the store, either Lowe's, Home Depot, Harbor Freight, whichever has the cheapest one. I gotta get a little cut wheel, or I'm gonna try and use my Sawzall blade, really, my metal blade, and just try and get through those little tabs right there. They say you can bend them, but I got the bike up on the jack and I don't want to be herking on that damn thing and the whole bike fall over, and then I'm in another mess. And then next thing you know, you said people all in an accident and their house blow up. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. As you can see, like I was talking about, everything's got to come up through that center column right here. So, like I said, if you have, but I'm trying to hold the camera and manipulate this cord and wire. All right, so if you got like LED lines that come up, they all got to be pulled back through this center column, because if not, you're gonna pinch them when you put that amp rack in. And these two guys right here, even though it said no cut, on that amplifier rack, they full of it. So, like I said, these are the tabs that I gotta cut. They say, like I said, you can pull them with some pliers or vice grips or something like that. But if you notice, they got that little weldment in the back. And that's designed so you can't bend it. You know what I mean? You might be able to bend it inside, but you can't bend it out without damaging everything else. So I'm gonna go ahead, cut these two tabs off. Sorry, that was the sound of the fender. And you're probably saying, well, why don't you have a fender protector on the fender right here? And you laying stuff down and scratch it all up. That's because, remember when I told you about that incident where I was trying to move the bike around this little corner store and I was on the sidewalk and I was down in the grass and the back wheel spun out on me and the bike flew over and it threw me off the front of it? Well, when the handlebars turned, the back wheel was sitting up on one of those little bumpers that in parking lots. You've seen them, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I didn't notice until I took the lowers off that this is what happened. I know I got you at a funny angle, but look at that. Got me all messed up. So I've been wanting to change out that front fender anyway for maybe a wrap fender or a shorter one, because I don't like the fact that they put that big dumb fender on there. You know, it's bigger than the tire and wheel itself. You know what I mean? So now I got reason to do it. So anyway, back to this. So I went up to Lowe's to get a cutting wheel for my Dremel, and I just realized that I had this. I'm gonna cut with that. Remember to make sure if you're cutting any kind of metal with any kind of saw, you know what I'm saying, you want to make sure that you file down those edges. You don't want to be running wire through there later on in the project and it grabs on something or it cuts it like a razor blade. Because trust me, those fresh edges that's been cut with that saw are super sharp. Alright, the only reason I'm taking this amp out is because you want to do some measurements. You want to make sure you got everything positioned right in there. First of all, what you want to do is you want to take this thing off if it's going to be on that amp rack, because you're going to have to modify it. Modifying means you're going to have to cut it, because as it slides in, the way that bracket is set up in there, it goes like this, but also the main radio bracket goes like that as well. So as you slide it back, it's going to hit in the back. You know what I mean? So you got to move those connectors right there. They give you, of course it'll be at the bottom, they give you some Velcro. So that Velcro in the back is going to be positioned in the back there, because you'll have it screwed down here in these 2 points, but these back right here, that'll get in the way of you sliding it back. They run right into it, trust me. So don't throw your Velcro away. Give you the little screws, little Allen head wrench. This is another one just in case. This is the actual mounts that I said you gotta cut. So if you're doing anything where you might want it raised, you use these guys. Don't throw those away. Save them for another project. You'll need them for something, trust me. These right here, if you had an aftermarket radio, you can use RCA connectors. With this right here for the input or output, I believe this is, I won't be needing this because I'm using the OEM radio. These right here are your ferrules for your positive, negative, and your speaker connecting ferrules. Make sure you get the right kind of tool to put these ferrules onto, to affix them onto your wiring. Don't just take a pair of pliers or vice grips and try and crimp them down right, because it just won't act right. As a matter of fact, here, 1 minute, I'll show you. You've probably seen them before. This tool right here. All right, so the ferrule goes down in there, and then when you squeeze, boom. All right, so we ain't at that point yet. Like I said, I'm just doing some test measurements and some markings on that amp rack in there. But first, what I do want to do is take this thing off of here. Changing plans. All right, for that amp rack that's in there, when I was doing the test fit on this amplifier here, I found that it wasn't annoying to get it to fit as I thought it would be, but I also had this guy right here. This is the DSP88, the version 2 from Cicada. I gotta make that fit as well. So what I'm gonna do is cut a little bit more of that OEM bracket, just so they can both fit in there. And that way I'll have room to run my wiring and my power and ground set up. There won't be any RCAs, but there'll be some input and output cords that'll be in there. They'll be snug down, tight fit, whatever. But I gotta make sure I got room for it. And with both of them in there, that's a no. And with that solo amp tray, I gotta come up with another way to make sure I have a flat area for this to rest on. So I'll probably grab me a piece of my ABS plastic and we'll see where that leads from here. Amp tray back in there, test fit with the amplifier and the DSP. It all fits. Now I'm getting ready to take that amplifier, that DSP, put it back in the box because I'm not ready to hook those up just yet. Just doing, like I said, a test fit. Right now I'm getting ready to run all of the feed wire to its appropriate places, and that'll probably take me into the evening because I'm sitting here watching a movie called Survive. Check it out. It's on Amazon. You might have to pay, or you might have to rent it for like $2, but it's worth the watch. I neglected to mention that the power wire is a 4 gauge. So looking at the HD PG 4K Cicada audio amplifier wiring kit. Now when they say amplifier wiring kit, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna come with any kind of RCAs or anything. They gave you the RCA connectors with the amp, and they probably figured, well, you'll probably need these because you're gonna use a a aftermarket head unit. Well, in my case, I'm not using the aftermarket head unit, I'm using the OEM head unit. So they thought about not putting RCAs in here, which I don't need, which I'm cool with, but whenever you pay for like a power and ground wiring kit or something like that, you expect it to be a kit, not just a 4 gauge power and ground. All right, this step is kind of annoying because you have to fish that power wire, which is 4 gauge, by the way, up through, gotta get it up through a slight opening where you can see daylight going through the neck of this fairing. Yeah, you can run it on the outside, but that's just the equivalent of someone running a power wire on their car from their battery outside the trim of the car, running it down, pinching it through the hood and actually through the door jamb. So you can do it like that. It's not gonna last, it's not quality work, and you're gonna get laughed at if anybody sees how you got your stuff wired. So go ahead and take the time. Yes, it's annoying trying to get 4 gauge wire through these small openings. Another way you could do it is you could actually remove the whole fairing. I'm not going through that. Now, if I was switching out and doing like a painted match inner fairing, I'd do it like that. But since I'm not doing that, I don't have that option. Also, remember, you want to give yourself enough slack, so if you ever have to pull the amp out slightly to do any kind of adjustments, that you have room to do it. You don't want to have your wires way back here. Sorry, I'm trying to get my hand out of the way. You don't want to have your wires way back here and they only stretch that far so they hook into the amp. But if you ever have to service that amp or switch out the amp or anything, you can't pull it out because there's no extra cable to go that way. So I always make sure I got enough service cable in the event that I need it. All right, because you're gonna be running your different wiring cable down this trough here, go ahead and take you some zip ties. Do not cut any of these wires down through here because this is the heart blood of your motorcycle. So be very careful. And all I'm doing is I'm putting some zip ties in there just to kind of give me some space, because otherwise these wires are all over the place. All right. So like I said, take care. Do not cut any of these. Maybe if you're the kind of person that wants to chase different wires and find out different things like that as to what runs everything, it wouldn't be hard if everything was organized, but who wants to do that? We're hooking up a stereo. We're not rebuilding a bike. I'm gonna run down to my local car audio shop down here. I got to pick up some speaker wire. The wire that I have, the gauge is a little too fat. I used to run that wire for subwoofers in a car or a truck. I don't need fat wire like that for a motorcycle. When I'm not running a sub, I'm just running mid-bass speakers and tweeters. So I got to run down here real quick and I'll be right back. They didn't have it. So I guess I'm just gonna have to use 12 gauge OFC. All right, because I'm running a DSP, I gotta run dedicated wire to each speaker. So it's not gonna be to actually each speaker, it'll be to the output plug on that DSP, but I gotta run them first. So let the headache begin. All right, even after cutting that ABS plastic, it's still a lot going on in there. That 1/4 inch of ABS made it where the amp can't slip in under that OEM radio rail. I guess that's what I'll call it. But, so I'm gonna have to just come up with another way. So I'll just finagle a way to get this in here, but it's going in. All right, this thing right here, I'm taking it out of the project. This thing right here is just not, this connector is not, doesn't coincide with the T-harness connector, and I'd be better off just buying the FLX 1400 DSP amplifier instead of adding this. If you want it, hit me up in the comments. I give it away for $100. Y'all can have this. This is very aggravating. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and finish running the speaker wire down to the saddlebags, where I will be starting in the next video, putting some quick disconnects on there so I can get the bags on and off without being a hassle and all of that. And I'm also thinking about doing some sound dampening. Maybe I'll put a few little dampening strips or something in there just so the 6x9 sounds a little better in the bag. But I'm getting ready to start buttoning up some of this stuff up because that DSP got me all discombobulated right now with that external DSP. It's been one of them days with that thing. And although I cut that tray out so it can be a little bit more room in there, I ain't even gonna use it because, like I said, it's sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And today, I was kind of losing on that aspect. But what I'm gonna do is get everything wired up. I'm gonna get my battery put back in here, get the other stuff ran, because the sun's starting to come out and I wanna ride my bike. And right now, with it being all tore down like this, it's depressing. And when you have one of these kind of days, I'm rambling. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, comment down below. And I appreciate all y'all. Love y'all. Ike in peace.